Good morning, good morning, good morning. Jordan, where you wait. Why weren't you on the screen? Are you
I don't
there?
know.
Did I
I'm
lose you?
here.
Did I lose
I'm
you?
here.
There you go. Oh, I
There,
like
I'm
the
here.
Destination Debbie shirt, baby.
I know. And
I
I
like the
heard that
shirt.
there's new ones coming on the way.
Yeah, dude, I got them all labeled up. I got to mail them out today. I was supposed to mail them out on Friday, but I got them boxed up and labeled here. But good morning. It is Monday, October the 4th, 2021. We are in the month of October. 2021 is flying by, just like the college football season and the NFL season. Just full steam ahead. Another great weekend of NFL action, college football action. We've got a ton to get into, but as always, we start by thanking the good people for tapping in this morning. I hope your Monday morning is off to a fantastic start. You have a great week. Productivity, be great, make it awesome, take advantage of every moment that we have. Jordan, how are you this morning, my friend?
I am fantastic. We talked about a great football weekend period. The college side was a little bit underwhelming in my opinion, unfortunately,
Shit.
and we'll get into that. But the NFL side did not disappoint, and I'm sorry, Evan, but Jets, Jets. They finally got a dub, man. I was so happy for Zach Wilson to see that dub.
It's funny because we talked about that on Friday. It was one of our unpopular calls, but we said this was going to be this was going to be 2 weeks for Zach Wilson to really show, kind of get off the schneid, right? Those 3 tough starts for a rookie quarterback to begin his career. And we said that this would be the game that we think the Jets could get one. And they did. They pulled it off in overtime. But we will get into that as well as some college football action. But first, Jay, you want to just hit on some quick news, the MLB. All I saw, as much as we were excited for football this weekend, all I kept hearing about was how wild the wild card race is in Major League Baseball. And then the Baltimore Ravens setting a record, which seemed like a very unwise coaching decision. You want to hit on that real quick before we get into the morning run?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of funny, and I didn't even really hear about this. It was very much an afterthought type of story because I wasn't watching the Raven games, wasn't watching Denver really at all. I wasn't too into that game. But either way, the Baltimore Ravens on the last play of the game, they ran for 5 yards, and it was so that they could tie a record with the Pittsburgh Steelers for 43 straight 100-yard rushing games. And so that rubbed Denver the wrong way, and that rubbed the NFL boomers the wrong way. And so people got, up in arms about it. But at the end of the day, if you don't want them to run the ball, stop them. That's just how it goes in football. And then as well, the wild card weekend was just that. It was wild. Wasn't quite as dramatic as we might have hoped. I was praying for Boston to lose because if Boston lost, that means Boston would have had to come to Toronto today to play against the Jays to win a spot in the wild card play-in game. So I was going to go to that game tonight if it ended up happening. It didn't. The Red Sox won. The Yankees won. So they're in the wild card. And then the Cardinals are going to be playing the Dodgers on Wednesday. Super excited for those games. We'll probably break them down tomorrow. But today, it's all football, baby.
Well, can you touch on the Mariners real quick? I saw some drama with the Mariners. Was that the Mariners versus the Red Sox? Was that the...
No, the Mariners were playing the Angels. I don't know if they ever came back, but they were down like 7-2 at one point. If you heard drama, they must have come back a little bit. But to be honest,
think they did.
The Mariners been overachieving all season. They had a run differential of like minus 67. They had no business being in the playoffs. They have one of the worst rosters in all of baseball. They're one of those teams, that like they're a pretender, they have a bad roster, but for some reason the management thinks, well, we can kind of compete. So, they had a great season. Don't get me wrong. They almost made the playoffs. I believe they won 90 games this year. No disappointment by any stretch. But for a team that should be rebuilding, you're not really helping out your team that much. We'll see what happens. We've seen this with plenty of teams before. They have one good season. Can they do it again? Can they bring in the right pieces? Can they develop those players? Who knows? It seemed like more of a lightning in the bottle situation than something that's going to be happening over the long term. I don't really believe in the Mariners, but who knows? They have time to rebuild, build up their farm system, and bring players through their system. But we'll see what happens. It was kind of just a lightning in the bottle, overachieving type situation.
Appreciate it, Jay. Well, we've got a lot of football to get to. We're going to start with the college game right after we get into, y'all know what's next, the morning run, baby.
Wake up! This is the morning run.
All right, so y'all all know that I was super pumped for the college football slate this weekend, especially Ole Miss versus Alabama, and that game did not live up to the billing. Ole Miss was terrible. They absolutely stunk. Lane Kiffin and his antics pregame, get your popcorn ready, throwing his headphones at the camera. They went out there, and it was 28-0 before you knew it. Brian Robinson had a game of his career. I mean, he absolutely went beast mode versus Ole Miss, and it really just showed, like, it's Alabama, it's Georgia, and then it's the rest of the college football world. Those are by far the best two teams playing college football right now. Iowa's doing a really good job. Penn State's playing well. But I think when it's all said and done, those are probably going to be the top two teams that we're looking at towards the end of the season. Matt Corral's Heisman chances probably dashed in this one. He didn't play a bad game. He wasn't out there throwing a ton of interceptions. They just couldn't get anything going. They were down early quick. They had to resort to the pass, and you just can't sit back and just throw the ball, 50 times a game and think you're going to beat Alabama. So Matt Corral probably lost the Heisman in that one, and I think it's Bryce Young's Heisman to lose at this point. I know Bijan Robinson is playing well for the University of Texas. He looked fantastic this past weekend. Over 30 carries, 200 rushing yards, just looking like a future first-round pick and the best running back in the 2023 class. Bijan Robinson, an absolute stud. As we talked about, as I alluded to a second ago, Georgia absolutely eviscerated Arkansas without their top quarterback, JT Daniels. Stetson Bennett comes in. JT Daniels still nursing a labrum, and that defense is hellacious. It's like we're watching the collegiate version of the '85 Bears with the Georgia Bulldogs and how Kirby Smart has that defense playing. Arkansas could do nothing. KJ Jefferson shut down. Traylon Smith shut down. Traylon Burks shut down. They could not get anything going. And, the number 8 team in the country falls, as well as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They fell to Cincinnati. Cincinnati took them down. Desmond Ridder looked amazing in that matchup. And when you're talking about, what a lot of people pay attention to college for, right? The fantasy implications and dynasty fantasy football in particular. Jay, mute your mic, man. I can hear you, and it's bothering me. Please mute your mic. Thank you. When we're talking about what most people look for, from the dynasty perspective in college, it's the quarterback position. And QB stock is still all over the place. I think one of the quarterbacks that's playing his way to have number one overall or number one QB consideration is Liberty's Malik Willis, and I get it. He's playing at an inferior conference than the P5 schools, but what he did this past weekend, 287 yards passing, 1 touchdown through the air, 144 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. He is really starting to pick up steam as the number one quarterback prospect in that 2022 class. Right now, for me, I've got Malik Willis 2 right behind Matt Corral, but he's playing fantastic. Spencer Rattler probably played one of his better games of the season this past weekend, going 22 for 25, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. As Oklahoma defeated Kansas State, Sam Howell had a really good game versus Duke, 321-3. Carson Strong, 263-1. Again, this is going to be a situation where I don't think we're really going to know who the QB1 is probably until we hear somebody's name called at the NFL draft. Is it Corral? Is it Willis? Is it Rattler? Is it Strong? Is it Howell? Is it Desmond Ridder? Probably not Ridder, but there are going to be quite a few quarterbacks taken early, as we saw some of the QB play this past weekend in the NFL, subpar to below average. So QB stock kind of just all over the place. Clemson still looks bad. DJ Uiagalelei still cannot seem to find his rhythm, cannot get it going, as Clemson barely beat Boston College this past weekend. Again, it wasn't the games that we were hoping for, especially the Alabama-Ole Miss game, but I do think, from a quarterback and dynasty perspective, the receiving class looks good. Ohio State with the big victory. C.J. Stroud looked good. Chris Olave making catches. Garrett Wilson with a long touchdown catch. Travion Henderson looks like the absolute truth. The kid is a monster. Anything that you want to touch on, Jay, before we hop into the NFL games?
I want to ask you about Michigan, because we slander Michigan a lot. I'm happy Stone is here, because I want to talk about Michigan for like 2 minutes, because you can get them at 18-1 to win the Big Ten. And I honestly think they have a legitimate shot. We got Iowa, Penn State playing this week. That's number 4 versus number 5. I really think that Michigan has a good shot. That defense is really good, and the offense is playing really, really well on top of that. Again, there's a few teams they're going to have to beat to get through. Michigan State being one of them, I think, is going to give them a tough game. But I do think that Michigan actually does have a pretty good shot, and they've been playing pretty well this season, still undefeated. I believe they're 9th right now in the country.
Listen, I tweeted out a tweet this weekend, and I just said, I'm sorry, Jim Harbaugh. I apologize, because he has Michigan playing like we thought Jim Harbaugh would have Michigan playing like 3-4 years ago. They've got a strong running game with Hassan Haskins, a former converted linebacker turned running back. Blake Corum doing his thing. And I think they are going to turn to true freshman J.J. McCarthy really, really soon. He came in. I think he threw one pass for a touchdown, also ran the ball well. Just a dynamic quarterback. This defense is playing well. They lost their top receiver, but they're finding guys to step up. The Big Ten is actually, probably one of the more intriguing conferences in college football, with Michigan, with Ohio State, with Iowa, with Penn State. Those top 4 teams, they're no slouch. We talked about 3 SEC schools getting in. That's not going to happen now. In order for that to have happened, we needed Ole Miss to beat Alabama. They got crushed by Bama. Arkansas got crushed by Georgia. So they should clearly fall out of, Georgia. Arkansas is definitely going to fall out of the top 10, probably the top 15 in my opinion. They just don't look like a top 15 team. And Ole Miss is not a top 15 team either. Matt Corral is good. The offense is fun, but they just don't have the horses to pick that up. I think Iowa, Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State, even though they had a bad loss to Oregon, and we saw Oregon fall to Stanford. We didn't even talk about that. I think there's a case where we get 2 SEC teams in, one of those schools from the Big Ten, and it's probably not going to be Ohio State, and then Oklahoma. This is going to be a big test for Oklahoma. They got the Red River Shootout this weekend versus Texas here in Dallas. That's going to be a really big game. But Michigan, man, hat off to Michigan. They're playing some damn good football. Jim Harbaugh has them cooking. Very, very, very solid performance by the Michigan Wolverines. But we got to get into that NFL action. And this is going to be rapid reaction through these games. And then we're going to focus on 3 of the games that Jay and I really felt were like a lot of intrigue, storylines, fantasy implications, betting implications, and NFL implications for that matter for championship contenders. But let's start with the New York Football Jets, man. The football Jets, not the football Giants, the football Jets. Jets, Jets. They beat the Titans in overtime. Zach Wilson got his first win as an NFL quarterback, taking down the Titans in OT. The Titans look terrible without Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. Tannehill has not been what we expected him to be for fantasy purposes or in the NFL. He hasn't looked really good. Derrick Henry did his thing once again, 30-plus carries, over 150 yards. His prop line at 111 yards, 117 rushing yards was an auto lock, right? He hit that. He got all the work. Derrick Henry leading the league in rushing and probably on his way to leading the league in rushing for back-to-back seasons. 3 straight seasons leading the league in rushing. Zach Wilson put a lot of good stuff on tape. He made some fantastic throws. Corey Davis, you saw the arm talent. You saw his ability to extend plays when he's got time. I was very impressed by Zach Wilson, and we talked about this, right? We were starting to get worried, but we said these next 2 weeks versus the Titans and the Falcons were going to be what we really saw Zach Wilson was made of. And I think the Jets are in good hands with Zach Wilson as long as they can limit some of the silly mistakes, get him some more help on that offensive line. I think Zach Wilson is going to be okay. The Washington football team came back to beat the Atlanta Falcons. This was a really good game, 34-30. The stars of the show, Terry McLaurin and Cordero Patterson. I mean, Terry McLaurin, 6 for 123, 2 touchdowns. Just when you're talking top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, I get, Julio Jones historically has been one of the best, and he's got universal love and respect in the NFL from his colleagues. But it's hard for me not to have Terry McLaurin as a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. He's just incredible. What he can do when the ball is in the air, his route running, his hands, run after the catch ability. He's great. And I have so many Terry McLaurin on my dynasty teams across my fantasy football leagues. He's a top 5 wide receiver for me in the NFL. Top 5. To me, there's no debate. He's a top 5 receiver, and he's doing it with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. He's done it with Haskins. He's done it with Alex Smith. He's done it with Kyle Allen. He's just waiting until they actually draft a real signal caller. If you're in Dynasty, you probably need to go scoop up Terry McLaurin. Cordero Patterson led the team in receiving and led the team in rushing. Once again, he's a must-start from this point on. He had 3 touchdowns in this game. Kyle Pitts had 4 for 50 on 9 targets. Calvin Ridley, 7 for 80 on 13 targets. And Matt Ryan had 4 touchdowns and 283 yards in this matchup. Still not the blow-up game from Ridley or Pitts that we want to see, but the targets are coming. Hopefully the yards and the production follow suit. The Buffalo Bills killed the Houston Texans 40-0. They covered that massive 17-point spread. Josh Allen, 20 for 29, 248, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 41 rushing yards. It was raining. The weather was bad. Josh Allen didn't play his best, but they still got the job done. Stephon Diggs, 7 for 114. Still waiting for that big Diggs blow-up game. He is getting the targets. And, Davis Mills just looks absolutely putrid. Less than 100 passing yards, 4 interceptions, 3 sacks. I hope you played the Bills' defense because we talked about the Texans not being dog shit. They were not good, but they weren't dog shit. Well, that was with Tyrod Taylor. Without Tyrod Taylor, they are absolute dog shit. They are runny dog shit. It is bad. They are not a good football team. Davis Mills is not the answer, and he looks like the worst rookie quarterback that we've seen in a very, very long time. Terrible performance by Houston. The Lions and the Bears, we saw Justin Fields, and we'll stop here for a minute, Jay. Justin Fields, there was all this speculation throughout the week. Is it going to be Fields? Is it Dalton? Maybe it's Nick Foles. Then they finally announced on Saturday Justin Fields would start the game. He got the dub. He played okay, 11 for 17, 209, 1 interceptions. It was a tip ball interception, 9 rushing yards. Darnell Mooney went off, 5 for 121 on 7 targets, really looking like the Chris Olave to Justin Fields' Ohio State offense. A-Rob, quiet again. Justin Fields put a dime on him, which was a beautiful catch, and that was like the highlight of A-Rob's season so far. 3 for 63. David Montgomery was going nuts, 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards. Did injure his knee. I haven't seen the confirmation if it was an ACL. I saw one report saying that it wasn't an ACL, so fingers crossed for David Montgomery. Jared Goff's stat line looked okay, but he played terrible. The Lions had like 4 red zone opportunities that they came away with 0 points in those red zone opportunities. Just bad. DeAndre Swift, all the talk about him being the guy. He was not the guy. Once again, Jamal Williams and he both had 14 touches in the game. Jamal Williams led that team in rushing and looked like the more physical runner during that game. Quintez Cephas and Amon-Ra St. Brown led the way through the air. It's good to see those young guys stepping up and producing. TJ Hawkinson kind of non-existent for the second straight week. Of the 4 games that we touched on, is there anybody that you want to talk about, Jay, that really stood out to you, whether that be Justin Fields, Josh Allen, Kyle Pitts, Terry McLaurin, anybody from those first slate of games that we touched on that you want to talk about real quick?
Well, I want to tell Josh Allen that I really don't like him right now. I had him at 2.5 passing touchdowns. He should have hit that prop. He didn't because I don't know what was up. If anyone watched that game in the red zone, the Bills were just awful, god-awful. They must have hit 3 field goals less than 35 yards because they just, for whatever reason, could not finish drives, and that's why they were in the game so long. This game could have been 65-0, honestly, the way Davis Mills was playing. But the big guy we want to touch on is Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney was a guy we've been touting all offseason. We've been talking about him a lot because he's such a great player who can stretch the field. Bringing Justin Fields in allows them to stretch the field further because he has a better arm, he's more accurate, he's more mobile, he can extend plays, all the reasons why Darnell Mooney can succeed. The biggest switch is that Matt Nagy finally held the clipboard, shut up, and just managed the game. Bill Lazor was calling plays, and you completely saw a different offense. Dave Montgomery was playing much better. The offensive line was playing better. Justin Fields, playing against a much worse defense this time around. So thank God he looked better, because if he didn't look good, we would have had some concerns. But more importantly, he was hitting the throws, he was hitting the spots, and Darnell Mooney went ballistic on that Detroit defense, which we all hope to see. But I had been so dejected by the entire Bears offense that I didn't want to believe that I was going to see that. But it was so great to see Mooney getting deep, stretching the defense. It opens up everything else when you have a guy who can do that, and they've been lacking that. And A-Rob hasn't been doing that. So Mooney, for me, is the biggest takeaway, as well as Zach Wilson looking really good in overtime. He looked pretty comfortable, other than that one play at the goal line where they tried to roll him out, which was just god-awful. They thankfully won the game, but that was a terrible play call on their part.
Yeah.
Mooney was most important.
Yeah, what are you doing with Mooney? Because it's somebody that I have been touting in the entire offseason. Like, when I went back and watched his tape, I was like, this dude is a legitimate – top flight wide receiver 2 potential in this game. He's got the speed, the body control, the hands. Where are you at with him in Dynasty? Is he somebody that you'd want to acquire, Darnell Mooney? Because I'm all over the Mooney train, especially with Justin Fields there.
Yeah, I love Mooney, and I think you were right in the offseason to talk about him. You're actually the one that brought him to my attention. We kind of go back and forth on players, but you brought him to my attention a lot. And, it's going to be harder to get him now because people have been like you, touting him and waiting for that blow-up game. Now, knowing that Bill Lazor's calling the plays, I'm expecting to see a little bit more from Mooney every single week. We saw week 2, he had a great game. Now, week 4, he had another great game. I think it's going to be difficult to acquire because he is on the come-up in his second year.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. All right, let's get back to the rundown. The Colts beat the Dolphins 27-17. This was kind of a boring game. Jonathan Taylor went over 100. Michael Pittman Jr. led the wide receivers with a solid game. He's another sneaky dynasty buy that I'm telling people to go get Michael Pittman Jr. Like, he's going to be the alpha in that offense. Go get Michael Pittman Jr. while you still can. Wentz had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Brissett to Mike Gesicki continues to work. You got to start Mike Gesicki as long as Jacoby Brissett is back there. It started off slow for Mike. They got him going. I think he finished with like 5 for 57 and a touchdown. Tight end 1 on the week again. Top 10 tight end this season. He's doing his thing. Good to see Gesicki doing that. Jalen Waddle. I mean, good grief, man. After coming off a 13-target game, he had 3 receptions early in that game, and Jay, I'm sitting there thinking, oh yeah, we got this over 3.5 locked and loaded, and we'll talk about that. But it did not lock at all. It did not lock or load for us. Jalen Waddle did not lock. Parker led the team in receiving, and the big storyline with this game, Myles Gaskin, 2 carries, 3 yards. He's fallen off the way that everybody expected James Robinson to fall off this year. Gaskin looks like he's done, man. This does not look good. They're continuing to roll out Malcolm Brown, Savon Ahmed getting work. I don't get it. I don't know what he did to piss off Brian Flores. But this is what happens with these undersized running backs that have no draft capital. They're just replaceable. And right now, if you went out and acquired Myles Gaskin in the offseason, this is not looking good. Woof, woof, woof. The Browns beat the Vikings 14-17. Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield were pedestrian at best. Odell Beckham Jr. and the Baker Mayfield connection just is not working, man. Like, it hasn't worked in 2 seasons. 2 receptions on 7 targets. Nick Chubb hit at 21 carries. He got close to 25, Jay. We've got a secret bet on the side here. Will Nick Chubb get over 25 carries one game this season? He got close, but no cigar. 21 carries, got 100 yards. Kareem Hunt balling on 14 carries, 69 yards and a touchdown. Dalvin Cook was in and out. Paul Pierce, you know how Dalvin Cook does. Get hurt, come in, get hurt, come in. He had like 30 yards on 9 or 10 carries. Justin Jefferson was the only bright spot on the offense. Had 1 touchdown called back, comes right back around, and 2 plays later scores another touchdown. Locked and loaded, top 5 dynasties tight end, along with Terry McLaurin, absolute superstar Justin Jefferson, that is. I want to spend a little bit of time, just a little bit, talking about the Giants and the Saints. Daniel Jones has looked fantastic this season. Call it what you want. Danny Dimes is balling, right? 400 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 27 rushing yards. Locked and loaded, start him each and every week. Saquon Barkley looks like he's starting to return to form. 52-1 on the ground, 74-1 through the air. Kenny Golladay decided to show up, went over for 100. Kadarius Toney, the most hated rookie on Twitter, actually looks like he can play. Go figure. Go figure. I mean, say what you want about his analytical profile. Say what you want about his route tree. What you can't deny is when you get the ball in a player like Kadarius Toney's hands, good things happen, and we saw that this week. I mean, he had over 80 receiving yards, just looks explosive, quick twitch. There was a couple of plays where he made the entire Saints defense look silly. How about we get him the ball a little bit more? Stop playing around with Evan Ingram, running reverses with Evan Ingram, doing all this stupid stuff with Colin Johnson and CJ Board. Get Kadarius Toney the ball. He's a playmaker. Figure out a way to get him the ball. 6 for 78 and led the team with 9 targets. Jameis Winston, just okay. Alvin Kamara, 26 carries, 120 yards. For the first time in his career, 0 targets. That's a problem for Alvin Kamara. 0 targets, and I think he exceeded a career high in rush attempts as well. Cardinals took down the Rams 37-20. Kyler Murray was solid. They had a really balanced attack. Chase Edmonds went over 120 rushing yards. A.J. Green and DeAndre Hopkins each had 67 receiving yards. Rondale Moore still has not had that breakout we've been hoping for. I think he went 3 for 28. Matt Stafford cooled off, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Cooper Kupp didn't lead the team in receiving this week. It was actually Van Jefferson, somebody that, again, we talked about him, Jay, sneaky pickup in Dynasty. He's starting to play more and more and more. And there are a lot of people who are saying Van Jefferson over Robert Woods. I know we still love us some Bobby Trees. He had 4 for 48 and a touchdown. But Van Jefferson is getting weaved into this offense more and more and more. He had 90 yards and a touchdown on 6 receptions. Listen, I can go tell you to go buy Cooper Kupp all day. I can go tell you to go buy Derrick Henry and Patrick Mahomes. Those are obvious ones. But players like a Darnell Mooney, like a Michael Pittman Jr., like a Van Jefferson are players that you can actually acquire in Dynasty for low cost that are probably going to yield better return than what you paid. So if I were you today, before he starts to pick up more and more steam as the season goes on, Van Jefferson is somebody that I'd actually be trying to acquire for fantasy because I think in the right matchup in these high-scoring games, Van Jefferson is definitely startable. Now, the Seattle Seahawks beat the San Francisco 49ers 28-21. Death taxes and Russell Wilson going under his pass attempts. We talk about this every damn week, Jay. Russell Wilson only threw the ball 23 times, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf 4 for 65 and 1. Alex Collins looked better than Chris Carson most of the day. Jimmy G strained his calf. Trey Lance comes in. He looked like a dude that was just playing backyard football, but you see the athleticism and the talent. He had 157 passing yards. Deebo Samuel continues his assault on NFL defensive backs with 8 for 156 and 2 touchdowns. Trey Sermon actually got something going on the ground with 89 rushing yards. Baltimore beat Denver 23-7. Lamar Jackson over 300 passing yards. And Marquise Brown. I still ain't going to call him Hollywood, but Marquise Brown didn't drop the ball in a deep end zone target. He caught it. He went 91 yards and 1 touchdown. Lat Murray led the attack with Tyson Williams being a healthy scratch. He didn't look very good. Devontae Freeman didn't look very good. Le'Veon Bell didn't look very good. Makes you wonder what the hell Tyson Williams did. Teddy Bridgewater got hurt. Drew Lock came in, and he looked like Drew Lock. He stinks. He's not good. Javonte Williams is a beast. He should be starting running back for the Denver Broncos. If you can go get Javonte Williams now, go get him. But after that run he made, he's probably unobtainable, or people are going to ask you for an arm and a leg. And the Green Bay Packers took down the Pittsburgh Steelers as Ben Roethlisberger had that entire team crying. Juju Smith-Schuster crying, literal tears. Najee Harris, literal tears. Aaron Rodgers was okay. He wasn't even surgical in this one. 248 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams had his 13 targets. He only went 6 for 64. Did not hit either of his receiving props. A.J. Dillon led the team in rushing with 81 yards. He still doesn't look that good to me, but he got the opportunity on 15 carries. And Ben Roethlisberger was bad again. It was either Deontay Johnson, who went for 90 yards receiving and a touchdown. Beautiful throw by Ben on that play. Or Najee Harris or bust. It's that, or it's Najee, it's Deontay, Najee or bust. Juju 2 for 11. He did nothing. Ben Roethlisberger is cooked. He is not good anymore. And you even heard the sportscasters talking about Pittsburgh just hung on a year too long with Ben Roethlisberger. So there it is, rapid reaction of all the games outside of the big 3 that we're really going to focus on. Is there anything that you want to say, chime in on from those games this past week, Jay?
No, man, I'm pretty good. Do you want a drink? Like, do you need some water? You called it.
Dude,
rapid.
I was moving, baby.
It was long-winded. It was explanation, but I am a little
long-winded. I went through the damn games. What are you talking about?
I'm a little bit peeved with you because one of your compadres, one of your associates in the old age business, Randall Cobb, turned back the clock. 2 touchdowns, man. He was 3,300 on DraftKings. Shout out my boy Jordan Vanek for telling me about that play. That made me some good money back because Kirk Cousins stunk. But yeah, the Vikings offense, man, I do not know why they wouldn't abandon the run. Like, they were doing nothing on the ground. The Browns have only allowed 13 points the last 2 weeks. Do not target the Browns defense. They are way too good. You do not want to go at that well. Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Ronnie Harris, doesn't matter. They're way too good. But the Vikings need to stop trying to run the ball when they can't. If they can't do it, you have Justin Jefferson, you have Thielen, you have KJ Osborne. I don't know if you saw the catch KJ Osborne made on the sideline. Go look it up. If you are watching the show, I didn't see it. And look it up. I don't know which DB it was, but he rose over a DB on the sideline, kept both his feet in bounds. Spectacular catch, probably my favorite one I saw all weekend. But the one story you did miss was Randall Cobb turning back the clock in San Francisco. I was happy to see that. Yeah. It was pretty cool.
All right, well, let's get on to the big 3 games that I want to talk about. And we're actually going to start with the Dallas Cowboys. And I want to start with Ezekiel Elliott, 20 carries, 143 yards, 1 touchdown as the Cowboys beat the Carolina Panthers 36-28. The big thing for me, the big storyline was Ezekiel Elliott, this Dallas Cowboys defense. This defense truly has been turned around by two players, one of them being a rookie, Micah Parsons, and the other a second-year player in Trayvon Diggs. Diggs had 2 interceptions in this game. He's got 5 on the season, 1 in each game of the season. And Elliot Chris, our man from FTN Fantasy, placed a bet for Trayvon Diggs to be Defensive Player of the Year, and the odds on that were plus 65,000. 65-1 odds was what Trayvon Diggs opened up at. There's only been 2 quarterbacks. I don't know, but there's only been 2 quarterbacks since 1994. There's only been 2 quarterbacks cornerbacks from 1994 to today who have won that award. It was Deion Sanders and Stephon Gilmore. Those are the only 2. Charles Woodson, and Stephon Gilmore are the only 2 corners who have won that award since 94. Listen, he's well on his way. I mean, it was 65-1, and knowing EC probably put a unit or 2 on that. And right now, Trayvon Diggs is looking like an NFL Defensive Player of the Year candidate. 5 interceptions this season in 4 games is incredible. Micah Parsons had a sack and terrorized that defense, that offensive line all day, made Sam Darnold's life a living hell. Zeke Elliott is dead. That's what they told me. He is not. Zeke Elliott is running probably the best that he's run since early in his career. He looks like a new man. Tony Pollard still did his thing with 67 yards. If I told you, Jay, that 4 Dallas pass catchers were going to have touchdown catches in the game and one of them not be CeeDee Lamb, would you believe that?
Absolutely not. There's no way.
Yeah. Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin, Cedric Wilson, and Amari Cooper all caught touchdown passes. CeeDee Lamb was on a milk carton. He went 2 for 13. That was it. 2 for 13 for CeeDee Lamb. Completely took him out of the game and said everybody else beat you. And that's exactly what Dak Prescott did. He's efficient. He only threw the ball 22 times, only 188 yards, but 4 touchdowns. And he should be firmly on the MVP radar right now as the Cowboys. They look like a top 3 team in the NFC right now. They are playing fantastic football on both sides of the ball. Dalton Schultz has been a very pleasant surprise for most of the country. I think PPR, he's got to be a top 5 tight end right now in PPR formats. He is balling in the NFL. He is, a top option for Dak Prescott. And at this point, Dalton Schultz is a must start in fantasy football leagues. I don't care if it's seasonal leagues or dynasty. If you have Dalton Schultz, you have to start him each and every week. You've got to start Pollard and Zeke. You've got to start CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Cedric Wilson looked good. This Dallas offense, this Dallas team is playing some good football, man. Are you impressed with the Dallas Cowboys?
Yes, absolutely. And this game was not as close as the score indicated.
No.
The Carolina Panthers scored a touchdown late. DJ Moore obviously had a spectacular game. But it's all about the running game now. And we talked about it last week, talking about the yards before contact, Zeke turning back the clock, having his longest run since his rookie season.
Yeah. We talked about this.
We were disparaging Zeke for not being able to run more than 40 yards. We talked about how he only ran the 40-yard dash and then just quits after that. But I think he almost hit 50. I think it was a 48 or 49-yard run on that really long play, and that's what really helped his day. But overall, he just looked spectacular. The offensive line dominated. This is the number 1 rushing defense coming into the game, and we thought that the Cowboys would be able to exploit it, and their offensive line would win, and that's exactly what happened. That yards before contact showed on every single play, whether it was Pollard, whether it was Zeke. Looked spectacular, but like you said, it's the defense. From week 1, we've been talking about how great the defense looked, improved. We can maybe throw some credit to Dan Quinn, although I'm not really going to give him too much credit because he
give him credit.
Better defense. But again, he's still manning that defense, and that matters, right? That's not all for nothing, and they are looking spectacular. They are probably a top 5 defense in the NFL right now, and I'm curious your thoughts. Do you think Dallas is a top? Would you say they're the best looking team in the NFL right now, especially in the NFC?
No, I just said it. I think they're a top 3 team. I still think Tampa Bay is there. You've got to put the Arizona Cardinals in that category.
Really?
Arizona's playing damn good football, man, on both sides of the ball. What they did to the Rams, you talk about this game wasn't really close. I don't think the Rams versus Arizona was really close either. Kyler Murray is playing on another planet. A.J. Green has turned back the hands of time. They've got a dynamic 2-headed monster in James Conner and Chase Edmonds. And then when you have bookends such as Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt, Budda Baker, Byron Murphy in the secondary, Isaiah Simmons is the chess piece, You've got to put Arizona as one of the top teams in the NFL right now, and they're undefeated. I've got Dallas right in that 3-4 range. I'm trying to be realistic today. I'm not being outlandish. I was very impressed with what Dallas did versus Sam Darnold because they are a hot team, and we did see DJ Moore go off in this one. 8 for 12, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. I still think there are some things that Dallas needs to clean up in the secondary, but DJ Moore was fantastic. Sam Darnold didn't have a bad game. 26 for 39, 301, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries, 35 yards, 2 more touchdowns. I think he's one of the league leaders in rushing touchdowns on this season. DJ Moore, all the talk about DJ Moore was he couldn't score touchdowns. He's turned into a touchdown machine, and we all knew that once DJ Moore started to get in the end zone, top 5 receiver in the NFL was well within his range of outcomes, and he is starting to fulfill that prophecy here in his 4th season, I believe. This is DJ Moore's 4th season.
Yep.
Robbie Anderson, 5 receptions on 11 targets. They tried to get him going as well, 46 yards. I think this is good momentum, positive steps forward for Robbie Anderson. Chuba Hubbard at about 50 yards on the ground in relief of Christian McCaffrey, who reports came out to say he's going to miss another couple of weeks. So CMC should be on the fence or on the mend soon for Carolina. But I think what Carolina's doing is they're building a good team. I think Carolina's going to be a formidable team for the years to come. I think Matt Rule going 8 straight defenders in the NFL draft a year ago was a smart move. Jeremy Chin looks like an absolute monster. C.J. Henderson along with J.C. Horn once he gets back. Deontay Jackson. This is a very good Carolina team. And even though the Panthers were missing their best offensive weapon, I still think they played well. But it did show that Dallas is just a little bit better than what Carolina has to offer. And I can definitely see Carolina pushing for a wild card spot. But right now, if I had to look at the NFC and without everything in front of me right now, I think it's still Tampa Bay. I'd say Arizona. I'd put Dallas and the Rams right in that same kind of range. I think that would be a really good matchup. But right now, the Dallas Cowboys have it going, and you called it. They're running the ball. They turn back the hands of time. They're running the football. Ezekiel Elliott is playing well. And Dak Prescott is not locking in on CeeDee Lamb. He's hitting whoever's open, whether that be Cedric Wilson, Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin. This is a good football team. They are playing damn good football, and I thought this was a really, really good showing for Dallas. They needed this win, and I think this is just going to set up, and the momentum is going to continue to push forward for the Dallas Cowboys, taking down some of these top teams in the NFL who have been very looked like really good teams so far in the season. So very impressed with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Tyreek, man. What can you say about how good this team? What do you do? And he had that one play where he caught like a deep dig, runs it across the field and almost scores a touchdown, like dives in the end zone, just out on the half-yard line. But he went 11 receptions on 12 targets for 186 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is what you get with Tyreek Hill, man. Like, you've got these games where he may not do much, they take him away, and then boom, he's just faster than everybody. Just incredible speed. Kansas City, like, they dominated for majority of the game. They were 9 for 13 on third down. Tyreek Hill went off. Travis Kelce seemed like they put all their effort to stop Travis Kelce, which that's the issue with Kansas City. You're like damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? You take away Hill, Kelce gashes you underneath. You take away Kelce, Tyreek Hill gashes you over the top. And that's exactly what happened. And Patrick Mahomes didn't even have to throw for 1 billion yards to do it. 24 for 30, 287, 5 touchdowns, 5 carries, 26. Let me tell you, Jay, I'm done. My prop bets are over. The only thing that GQ will bet from here on out, I'm just letting y'all know, are QB rushing props, because I was 7 for 7 on QB rushing props this weekend. Patrick Mahomes' line, one of my locks, and we'll get to that in a second, was 14.5. We locked that in. Patrick Mahomes, 5 carries, 26 yards. Jared Goff beat his line. Tom Brady hit his last night, which was over 1 yard. Just Tom Brady get a yard. I mean, that's all I'm doing from now. So we're going to do Ray's rushing plays. Like that's the new segment. Ray's QB rushing plays. Let's win some money on these QB rushing yard props, because they seem easy to hit for me, and I'll dive into some more data moving forward about which quarterbacks have good matchups to hit those yards. But Kansas City just dominated. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, dude, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is like top 6 in rushing in the NFL this season.
He's good. He's good.
I didn't think. Listen, I have all the receipts are there. I have always said I believe Clyde is a good running back if they give him the ball. It just seemed like he's always an afterthought, and for whatever reason, Andy Reid's like, damn it, we're just going to run Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And he looks good, man. My man Jay Moyer posting pictures, Matt Waldman retweeting videos of how good Clyde is. Just give him the ball. Give him the ball. He may not be this dynamic thing that we wanted out of LSU. Maybe he's not Christian McCaffrey. Not no maybe about it. But he's a good running back. Again, behind that offensive line, 14 carries, 102 yards, 2 receptions, 12 yards, and a touchdown. Clyde looks good, man. I mean, the lack of turnovers, that's what kills Kansas City when they turn the ball over. That's what kills any football team. When you turn the ball over, it's very, very difficult to win. Clyde looks good, man. Like, listen, for as much Devin Singletary talk as I gave him, it was all predicated on the offense, man. And I am backpedaling like the DB that I used to play because I'm back in on CEH. I'm back in. I just like him, man. And I said it on the show. I refuse to believe he's that bad. Like, I just refuse to believe that Clyde is just that terrible. Maybe he's not the number 2 overall or the 101 in Dynasty like we made him be in that rookie draft. He's not better than Jonathan Taylor. He's not better than DeAndre Swift, but he's still a good running back, and it seems like the Chiefs have found that sweet spot between 15 to 16 carries a game. Hopefully he gets more usage in the receiving game, but he's a good running back. Now, on the Philadelphia side of the ball, Jalen Hurts, I thought Hurts played really well. I thought Hurts played a really good game, and I know some of the stats are padded because they were throwing late. 32 for 48, 387, 2 touchdowns, 8 carries, 47 yards. But the Eagles could not run the ball, and it was announced before the game that they were without Lane Johnson and without Jordan Mailata, the fantastic left tackle. They are down 4 of their 5 offensive linemen from week 1 already. Like, they're just cursed on the offensive line, Philadelphia, that is. So we already knew it was probably going to be tough sledding on the ground, as well as Jalen Hurts having time to get the ball going through the air. They only rushed 10 times for 44 yards with their running backs. Jalen Hurts led the way. They just can't get anything going. Kenneth Gainwell is a problem for Miles Sanders. Kenneth Gainwell is a good running back. He is a problem for Miles Sanders because he is going to continue to play. You probably could start both of them and flip a coin as to which running back is going to have the better week. What was encouraging was Devonta Smith gets back on track. He had 2 back-to-back poor performances, 16 yards, and then he had like 20-something yards last week. He went 7 receptions on 10 targets for 122 yards, just missed like a 40-yard touchdown catch, stepped out of bounds, came back in. But Devonta Smith is the alpha in that offense, and I know he's pacing for well over 100 targets this season. Good to see him get his first 100-yard receiving game on the year. He's an alpha, man. I mean, that catch that he made on the sideline, full extension, it just showed how, if you haven't seen that grab by Devonta Smith, it just shows how freaky athletic and how freaky long he is, because it was a bad ball by Jalen Hurts. Devonta Smith reaches out, catches it, toe tap, drags it on the sideline. Just fantastic performance from Devonta Smith. Listen, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, those two are looking like the cream of the crop from this 2021 NFL draft class. I love Rondale Moore. We still have yet to see Rashad Bateman on the field. I think he's going to make a big impact. Probably, in my opinion, more of an impact for the actual team than for fantasy purposes, but we'll see. But Devonta Smith and Jamar Chase seem like the cream of the crop in the 2021 class. 2 alphas. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert both combined for 116 yards, with Dallas Goedert getting in the end zone. Philly's just tough, man. Tough breaks for Philadelphia. And you asked the question, where am I with Jalen Hurts? I'm still in on Jalen Hurts. I do think they can build around Jalen Hurts. And if you listen to his post-game presser, like, he's just everything you want from a leader, everything you want from a quarterback. And he did not play bad. There's some times where I'm like, hang in the pocket, deliver a throw. He would roll out, threw the ball away a lot, didn't force anything. You can tell he didn't want to turn it over. They just need offensive line consistency, man. It's hard to get going when your offensive line is not there. Anything you want to touch on from the Kansas City or Philadelphia part of this game, Jay?
Nothing really from the KC side. You hit on a lot of the points. KC dominated this game start to finish. Like we talked about last week, it's all about Clyde and that running game. That revamped offensive line is looking spectacular. They're second in yards before contact. It showed again this week. Getting Clyde only 14 carries, still went over 100 yards. To your point, I wish we saw him get more volume, because there's no 2 weeks in a row now. There's no reason to say, well, they can't run the ball more. We know they want to throw the ball, and that's great. But they've tried that for a few weeks, and it hasn't really worked out so well. Why not get Clyde the ball more, playing against inferior opponents like the Eagles? I would have liked to see it, but he looked spectacular regardless. Like you talked about with Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, I forgot to put the stats in there for you. So Kenneth Gainwell, 3 carries for 31 yards and a late touchdown. But more importantly, he caught 6 of 8 targets for 58 yards. Miles Sanders caught 3 of 3 targets for 34 yards. So almost 100 yards between the running backs through the air, which was great to see. But Devonta Smith actually did an interview with Mark Ingram and Cam Jordan, and he talked about what separated him from Jalen Waddle and Jerry Jeudy. He talked about Jerry Jeudy's route running, how prolific he is. Waddle and Ruggs couldn't do that, but they had the speed, the elite deep speed. That was their thing that made them elite. And Devonta Smith was talking about how he had to be the guy who had spectacular hands and great ball skills. And that was the thing that he worked on to separate himself from the other Alabama receivers. And he just talked about how everyone has to have their elite traits to get to the league and be spectacular. And that was his thing, his ball skills, his ability to go up and get balls. And you saw that this week, especially like you talked about on that one catch. And you're going to continue to see that because that's what Devonta Smith works on and hones his game around, is his ability to go up and get the ball, spectacular footwork, and ball control in the air when going to get the ball.
Are you at all concerned about his size? Because I think he's shut that up through 4 games.
No, he's looked so good. And doesn't matter who he's going against, he always has a shot. And that's all you want from your guys. Doesn't matter how big. Even Tyreek Hill, no matter what it is, that dude always has a shot. And that to me is the most important thing. For as short as Tyreek Hill is, we've seen him moss defenders that are way taller than him before.
Yeah.
These guys, these elite receivers that have these ball skills, they always have a shot, and Devonta Smith is one of those guys.
I will say that I think Jamar Chase has played like the best rookie wide receiver this NFL season. Just totality. Yeah. He's looked the best, but Devonta Smith is right there behind him. And I think for most people, I saw people have Devonta Smith ranked outside the top 10, ranked as wide receiver 8, had Tylan Wallace over Devonta Smith. I think he's comfortably slotted in as the second best receiver in this class and an alpha in his own right? Whether that be with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I saw if the season were to stop today, Philadelphia would own the number 5, number 7, and like number 9 picks in the NFL draft.
Wow.
And this is what I keep saying, man. If they stick with Jalen Hurts, they draft Derek Stingley, they get an offensive lineman, they get some defensive help, they can turn this thing around really quick. I think Philadelphia is right there on the cusp of something great. But let's talk about the game of the ages, the most watched game in NFL history was supposed to be the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You said you weren't impressed. I liked it. Now, I thought it was a good football game. I think the reason why so many people did not think that was because we all expected Tom Brady to go out there and just go nuts. And that did not happen. New England had a great game plan. They did not allow Tom Brady to air it out over the field. Chris Godwin was on witness protection for the entire first half. Listen, New England played a hell of a game. They played well enough to win that game. But Tom Brady at the end of the day, is Tom Brady for a reason, right? New England was 2 of 9 on third downs. You're not going to get it done there. They only ran the ball 8 times. We already knew that it was going to be very difficult for New England to run on Tampa Bay. Damian Harris ain't it. Like you gotta try something different. You got to give Ramondre Stevenson a shot. It's hard to run on Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh and Devin White. Mac Jones was 31 for 40, 275, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. The narrative around him, I don't get it, man. I do not get it. I'm seeing people say, oh, he's not that special. His ADOT wasn't that high. He's not taking shots downfield. Who the hell is he supposed to throw to downfield? Who's running downfield? It's not Jacoby Myers. It's not Jonnu Smith. It's not N'Keal Harry. It's not Hunter Henry. Nelson Aguilar is who we want to put our chips in and our stock in for Mac Jones to throw the ball downfield to. Nelson Aguilar? Are we serious? Like, I think people want this kid to fail so bad that a performance like this just, 275 yards. He didn't push the ball downfield a lot. Not good. Told you Mac Jones stinks. I don't get it, man. I mean, maybe I don't know football. Maybe I just don't know football, but he played well enough for them to win the game. He did not lose New England that game. He had 1 interception early in the game that was tipped over the middle to Nelson Aguilar. He took his shot and it got intercepted. Probably a bad ball. Shouldn't have thrown it. But I thought Mac Jones played really, really good in a poor game condition. I mean, it was pouring rain. It was pouring rain. This was Tom Brady's day, and Mac Jones' stage does not seem too bright for the kid. I'm not sitting here saying that he is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but when I look around the NFL and I see the Drew Locks of the world starting, when I see Jared Goff taking snaps, when I see all these other quarterbacks, I'm thinking, I bet you $100, I bet you $1 million Denver would rather have Mac Jones at quarterback opposed to Drew Lock. I bet you the Detroit Lions would rather have Mac Jones instead of Jared Goff. I don't get the hate, man. I don't understand it. It's just a crazy narrative to me that so many players, so many analysts don't like this kid or want to shit on his performance when I thought he played a fantastic game. He played about as well as you could hope for versus the defending Super Bowl team. I don't get it, man. I just don't. I do not understand it for the life of me.
Yeah, and I think where you're right is that, in my opinion, the Patriots outplayed the Bucs. Part of that was because Tom Brady couldn't really throw the ball very well. He was super inaccurate, and that was kind of one of the big things with the game. The 2 turnovers really killed the Patriots, even though the Bucs didn't score a whole lot of points off of them. I believe they only had 3 points off the 2 turnovers. One of those turnovers was a fumble by J.J. Taylor, who, of course, did not see the field for the rest of the game because he fumbled. Ramondre Stevenson didn't play because he's been fumbling lately. So we saw a lot of Brandon Bolden, and that's what I want to highlight here for the people who do play fantasy.
He is terrible, too.
we don't want to talk about Brandon Bolden, but he's getting a lot of snaps. And for better or worse, he is going to be that James White role.
You're right, but he's terrible.
Unfortunately.
You're right, but he is terrible.
He's not great, but Mac Jones looked spectacular. And for people who think that Cam Newton should be starting, that is not the case. Mac Jones is way better in the pocket. I don't know who he sidestepped on one of his throws, but he juked the living hell out of Devin White. Devin White. And this dude is barreling down the A-gap, and there is nobody there. And Mac Jones sidesteps and throws a 15-yard completion just right away like it was nothing. But the biggest thing that people need to understand is that the moment is not too big for Mac Jones. And it is so understated in college football how important it is to have quarterbacks with a lot of good experience. This was not the biggest game Mac Jones has ever played. And I personally refuse to believe that. People can say that narrative all they want, but this is a regular season game. Yes, it's against Tom Brady. Yes, it's home, viewership, all this stuff. Mac Jones led an undefeated Alabama team to the national championship game after just losing the Heisman to his own teammate. Like, these games are so much bigger to these kids than a week 4 regular season game. Mac Jones comes out, throws a touchdown to Jonnu Smith to take the lead, and he's just walking down the field.
Yeah, he just ran to the sideline.
Yeah. He doesn't give a shit about these games. Like, he is so locked in, like, to the point where it's honestly annoying watching him play sometimes because he's so even keel with everything that he does. But that's what makes him such a great quarterback. He doesn't need to have these highs and lows. He just stays the course, runs the offense, looks great. Now, to your point, he only threw 1 pass longer than 20 yards, but I'm not too concerned about that because it was more of the weather wasn't great. Maybe that was the way they wanted to play the offense. We're going to see how that offense develops over time. Right now, it's very short, dink and dunk, but I'm okay with that if it's successful. And this game, it was successful.
Here's my thing with that. Would you rather your rookie quarterback, launching it down the field, getting picked off, doing what Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson were doing early, or protecting the ball, taking what's there, building confidence, and having methodical drives down the field? I don't care if he does it in 3 plays or if it takes him 9 plays, and there's a certain part of it, like you get into a rhythm. Like when he had 2 methodical drives down the field, like 9+ play drives, just picking them apart, and had Devin White not tipped, or I think it was Devin White, not tipped that ball on 3rd down, Jacoby Myers was wide open. I mean, he was about to catch that and run down the field. It will develop, man. It's his 4th game in the NFL, and people are acting like the story is written. He's a finished product. He will never be able to throw the ball downfield. Again, I ask you, Jay, and I'm being serious, who is he supposed to throw the ball? They're not running down the field. Who is he supposed to run down the field, and who's he supposed to throw it to?
I mean, it is Nelson Aguilar. That's the guy. You know, I believe he averaged 18 yards per reception last year, looked really good. But the biggest thing for me right now is that they need to actually start taking those shots a little bit more. And while I agree with you, I think that there is certain parts that are being protected with Mac Jones. They're not trying to do too much with him. They're slowly building this offense out. But Nelson Aguilar needs to be that guy. Maybe N'Keal Harry down the line becomes that guy. But for now, I think they do need to start taking more shots, right? They are doing a bit of dink and dunk. And even still, what we haven't seen as well is stretching the field with the tight ends. Maybe that's Jonnu Smith's fault because he hasn't been that great so far this season. But Hunter Henry looked pretty good in this game. Jonnu seems to be, we'll see what they do with them. But I think that they do need to start opening it up with Nelson Aguilar because we know that Mac Jones can take those shots. He just, for some reason, hasn't yet. They did it in the preseason. Haven't seen it so much so far.
He's a rookie, man. He's a rookie quarterback in an offense that's designed to get the ball out quick. They talked about his time of release. Thought he played a good game, man. Could he have played better? Sure. Tom Brady. We're comparing him. Do you understand what we're doing? We're comparing this kid to Tom Brady. I mean, I would rather be compared to Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. I would rather be compared to Gardner Minshew and whoever Jackson and Jake Luton. I would rather be compared to Sam Darnold with the New York Jets. I'd rather be replacing Jimmy Garoppolo. He's replacing Thomas Patrick Edward Brady, whatever his damn name is. 6-7 touch. I just think what people want him. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm seeing Cam Newton would have won the game. Cam Newton would have this team 4-0. With the same damn weapons he had last year, the same ones, outside of Jonnu Smith and Hunt. I don't get it. I thought the kid played a hell of a game. He played well enough to win it. And in a world in which nobody gave New England a shot, even yourself didn't give New England a shot. And I said on Friday, it's not going to be a blowout. They will cover the spread. New England is going to play Tampa Bay tough. And I said that on the show, and I took New England all over the place to cover the spread, and they did that. They played well enough to win. Now, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady breaks the all-time passing record. I think he got that to Antonio Brown. Was it AB that ended up? No, Mike it wasn't Evans. AB. It was Mike Evans that caught it. AB got the next pass. Tom Brady played well enough to get the job done. In a very, different environment for him at Gillette Stadium as the opposing quarterback. Leonard Fournette, man, blast from the past. Playoff Lenny looking like regular season Lenny, 20 for 91, 3 of 5 through the air for 47 yards. Mike Evans, 75 through the air. Antonio Brown set 11 targets, 63 yards. Almost had a beautiful touchdown grab in the end zone, which would have iced the game just a little bit, just couldn't reel it in. But Tampa Bay is getting decimated by injuries, man. I mean, they are just getting decimated by injury. What do you think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their Super Bowl aspirations? Is it just a matter of health? Because they will get healthy. But what were your thoughts on Tampa Bay really quick?
I thought they looked okay. I didn't think they executed very well, like you talked about with Antonio Brown. It was actually back-to-back plays. First play, he didn't see it. Second time, he kind of dropped it. It was wet, all those things. Tom Brady didn't look great in the rain. Again, nothing really you can do about that. If you're going to throw the ball in the rain, you're going to expect it to be wet. You're going to expect it to be hard to catch. Chris Godwin didn't show up. Mike Evans played really well, which I was happy to see because he's been kind of in and out a little bit. But AB was kind of the focal point of the offense. Cameron Brate couldn't do anything. But more importantly, what you notice is that they do not have the depth right now to win games. They are funneling all of their targets and all their opportunities to a few players, and it's not really working out for them. They're too easy to stop right now, but it was great to see them get the running game going, and I hope that continues because that will help their success down the line. But the back end, I forget who got injured, but they lost 2 cornerbacks in that game. I believe they lost a safety as well.
Carlton Davis didn't look good for Carlton Davis. Richard Sherman looked like a dude who had been at the house for a minute. You know what I mean? I don't think Tampa Bay is going to return, man. I don't right now. I can't see it, man. I love that they found a ground game, but right now the secondary is a liability. It's a big-time liability. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll get into our bets. We'll talk about our bets tomorrow. We'll wrap up our bets tomorrow. I just want to real quick touch on the Monday night game. We've got the Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. My Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr playing like an MVP, as well as Justin Herbert. The Chargers are favored by 3 with an over-under of 51.5 points in this one. Derek Carr, prop. Car trouble for Derek Carr. Over one. Will he throw an interception this game? And then Justin Herbert, the rushing yards. That's all I'm fooling with are rushing yard props. Over under 13.5. If you're asking me right now, I'll probably take the under. Justin Herbert doesn't really run a lot, man. He doesn't run a lot. I will have to look. I am not locking this in right now, but I will take a dive into some of Justin Herbert's rushing yard stats and see if I want to take the over or under on this one. But I will do something on this game, as well as Mike Williams. Are we going to stay in the Mike Williams flames at 74.5 receiving yards? Jay, what are your thoughts on this game real quick?
So the Chargers have hit unders in 3 straight games. So if you're looking at an under, I would say that'd be a good bet. I think it's going to be really tough sledding for Derek Carr through the air. But to your point about Mike Williams, I am in on the overs. I'm staying in those flames. I wasn't really as in on the Cooper Kupp flames that you were, but I am in on Mike Williams. I think he's going to be great. I believe his line for receptions is only 5.5, where Keenan Allen's is 6.5. I do like it better at 5.5. But his receiving yards are up there with Keenan Allen now. Keenan Allen at 78.5, but Mike Williams still at 74.5. Great value, and you can get him in plus money to score plus 105, which I think is another great value because he's been the red zone target for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, the juice on Keenan Allen plus 110 anytime touchdown scorer. I kind of like that one for Keenan Allen as well. I think this is going to be an awesome Monday Night Football matchup. I'm excited for this game. Jay, we made it, baby. We went through everything: college, NFL, the 3 primetime games. We appreciate everybody tapping into the show this morning. Again, hope you make today great. Be blessed. We will be back tomorrow to recap the Monday Night Football game, talk about our bets, where we went right, and all the places that we went wrong. But make sure y'all tap in and wake up with us. We out of this thing. Peace.